Guys, welcome back to the channel. Yeah, I'm gonna have to redo this video because the previous video I made reacting to this oral Tracey comments is being suppressed by the YouTube algorithm. I think it's because I used a few words that YouTube doesn't like the M word or the K word, things like those things. So I'm gonna kind of just speak off the cuff again. I don't write scripts and I probably will not remember not to say certain words, but let's try. I'm still getting used to this YouTube thing. Alright, so again, we're reacting to a video where Oral Tracey was talking about a particular incident where a young man was caught by the police along with his cronies trying to rob a place. There was a shootout. The young man did not make it. So he was talking about something that's a very relevant discussion, and that discussion has to do with music and the fact that we cannot blame music for this incident. So yeah, I'm just kind of reacting to it. I have a different take than he does. So I'm gonna allow you to hear his point of view, then I'm gonna reply.
Yeah, YouTube family, the Maverick in the space one more time. And that kind of different vibe. Yeah, cause we're watching newscast and we see the big story in Jamaica. A crime story, unfortunately. 4 gangsters get caught up downtown, upper Orange Street, I think. Yeah, them go up on some gang operation and police in the vicinity, I must hear the shot them and get wind of the situation and the police running and intercept them vehicle. 2 must get to and 4 of them get caught up. They recover some high power weapon, I think 2 rifles and some bossy shotgun. But
Alright, guys, as you can see there, I just got an order from Uber. I'm out here hustling. So while I'm doing this, so I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna continue the video from here after I'm done with that order. Alright guys, so I've completed that pickup. So back to reacting to Mr. Tracey.
the part of the story where I beat up people. There's a 17-year-old youth among the dead. And his sister came and kind of like, she spoke about the youth and how him get to where him get to. And she was pretty forthright, and generally speaking, when them kind of something happen, family members don't talk as honestly as this sister and this youth talk. And I think she put a whole heap of light and a whole heap of context in enough of the conversation, not just this instance, but me think in enough of the conversation about how the youth them turn to crime. And that me want. But before me do that, before me say what we really want to say about it, just listen to the sister.
I can't believe them dead, but a part of life, because if you can't hear, you must feel. If you live by the gun, you must die by the gun. I'm tired to talk to him. She left him behind and make him a fan for himself from him at 14. My brother depend him one. From him at 14. I will put him up when he live with my sister and come out, he don't want to live with nobody, he want to live by himself. So make him
Him still had a major part to play in his ultimate demise. But the point for me I make is, look at the other social realities and the social nuances we get deciding the direction he want to go with his life. So him have to take a portion of the blame, But again, this is a youth at 14, 15, 16, 17, Him gone, So although him young and him naive, based on what his sister say, him still had a major part to play in his ultimate demise. But the point for me I make is, look at the other social realities and the social nuances we get the youth there in the situation where he get himself in. Look at them. Yeah? And tell me, when a youth get to that space to where he got himself into now, when gangster music play, the youth there, I go celebrate and bounce and sing gangster music, you know. Because it resonate with the lifestyle where him choose to live, or where the other social forces push him into and made him vulnerable. So he became what he became. But to think that a youth like this now would have been...
Alright, so as you can see there, this is the perfect test case that people like Oral Tracey like, because they get to talk about what they love to talk about, which is how socio-economic situations and bad situations and poverty, how that leads to crime. And they hold this kind of a case up, and they say, here is our proof. However, many of us who are looking at the situation more closely are starting to say no. Poverty does not lead to crime. High unalive rates within a country. We're not seeing the data that backs up this kind of assertion, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Then I'm going to talk about what really creates violence and crime within a society. And I don't like to drag out the answer to a question, so I'll tell you right now. It's not poverty, it is culture. Then I'm going to talk about the final part, where does the music come into all of this? And of course, we're going to talk about the influence of the music on culture. We're not trying to say, as people like Oral Tracey like to strawman the argument. They like to say, oh, you're claiming that this youth listened to some violent music and just went out and decided that they wanted to commit crimes. Nobody who is really looking at the situation is making that argument. The argument we're making is that, number one, it's about culture, and then number two, how does the music impact the culture? All right, so let's talk about the first thing that he mentioned, which is the socio-economic environment and how that led this youth to his demise and the life that he chose. So the data does not back this up. Let's look at a few statistics. Let's start with let's start with Jamaica, because that's where we are right now. So Jamaica, unalive rate is 53 per 100,000 within a year. So that's what they mean by per capita. 53 per 100,000. That is high. That is the highest in the world. That is Jamaica. Now, is Jamaica the poorest country in the world? Sorry, I'm an Uber driver. Is it?
What are you looking for?
I'm an Uber driver. I was just waiting for a passenger, but it's okay. I'll move it. So if that, yeah. All right, guys. So I'm back. I just a security guy. I was parked at close to a university here in Halifax. As most people, anybody who has seen my other videos, I do drive Uber on the side as my side hustle, so that's what I'm doing. And I'm giving you these videos raw and uncut, guys. I'm not writing any scripts. So, yeah, I'm just giving it to you raw and uncut, and I'm not cutting anything out of these videos, I'm giving it to you exactly as I am. So continuing with what I was saying before. So Jamaica, highest in the world. And as you will see by the other statistics, it's not close to many of, it's not even close. All right. Is Jamaica the poorest country in the world? Is Jamaica the only country where a child is going to end up in a situation where they're going to have to fend for themselves from an early age? No. Jamaica's GDP per capita is $6,000 roughly, US dollars per year, which is not high. It's not very high, but as I'm going to show you, it is not close to being one of the poorest countries in the world. All right, let's look at a country on the extreme end of the spectrum. Rwanda. Rwanda is roughly 1,000 US dollars GDP per capita, so 6 times poorer than the average Jamaican. And we're talking about, this is the individual person GDP per year. So you're telling me a country where the average person is 6 times poorer than Jamaica, you're not going to have kids who their parents leave them on their own and they're going to have to fend for themselves? Happens in other countries as well. Happens in rich countries as well as poor ones. Now look at Rwanda GDP unalive per capita. You can't the 2019 number is 3.59. The 2018 number is 3.15. So Jamaica is at 53. Rwanda is at roughly 4. So you're telling me Jamaica unalive rate is probably somewhere, I'm too lazy to do the math, somewhere between 14 to 18 times worse than Rwanda, even though Jamaica is 6 times richer than Rwanda. I'm not cherry picking the data. This is all over the world. This is India. India, not as poor as Rwanda, 2,410 US dollars per year. Unalive rate for India. In 2019 and 2018, roughly 3 per 100,000. Right? 18 times better than Jamaica. Half as rich as Jamaica, roughly. Let's move away from Jamaica. Let's look at Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago, almost 20,000 US dollars per person. So Trinidad is approaching being a rich country. But more technically, Trinidad is a middle income country. Look at Trinidad and Tobago on a live rate. Let's take back a look. Trinidad and Tobago, 40. So a little bit better than Jamaica. For their unalive rate. But way worse than countries that are way poorer, like Rwanda. Look at Ghana. Where's Ghana? Ghana, 2,200 US dollars. Unalive rate in Ghana. Less than 2 in 2019 and 2018 and 2020. Ghana, one of the safest countries in the world. Ghana, a country like the US, I don't have it up on my screen right now, but a country like US is roughly around 10. So the US and US GDP per capita is over 60,000. So US, being a country that is around 30 times richer than Ghana per person, their unalive rate is 5 times worse than Ghana. Right? So what we're talking about, it's not about poverty, it's about culture. Right? It's about culture. That is what creates the violence within societies. So now we have to talk about this particular person, youth, who was who faced his demise. Yes, there were socioeconomic issues, but we have to ask ourselves, why is it that going in the gang direction was such an easy option for him. If he was in Rwanda, that would not be an easy option. Even though Rwanda is poor, it wouldn't be a good option for him in Ghana either. He would have had to do something else. As evidenced by the fact that these countries are way of significantly less gang-related violence. So, the reason is the fact that the culture within Jamaica, certain parts of the US, South Philadelphia, Baltimore, Chicago, New Orleans, Memphis, certain parts of these cities, Trinidad and Tobago, what these places have in common, there is a culture that makes it so that if you are a gang member, you automatically become popular within the community. So if the adults within these communities, well, not all of the adults, but the loudest ones, support gang members, when the gang members face their demise, they come out and protest. How is a young man supposed to interpret that kind of behavior by adults? Of course he wants to be popular. Of course he wants all the women. If the women want gang members, he's going to want to be a gang member. So that's the difference within the culture of Jamaica. Within the culture of Jamaica, there's also a culture of retaliation, where there's a circle of violence where one member of one family is unalived, then they retaliate. But when they retaliate, they don't find the person who did it. They find a person who is a family member of that family member, and it goes on like that for years. That's a part of the culture. That's how violence spirals out of control within a society. So we know that this is culture. We also know that elites like Oral Tracey, it would be sacrilegious for him to criticize something that is very close to the heart of quote-unquote ghetto people, because the ghetto people, there are many types of people who live in the ghetto. There are people like me who grew up in a tough lower class community, who worked hard in school, who left school, worked hard at work, and was worried when I was getting home if I was going to get home safely, because I know that there were certain people on the corner that may or may not try to rob me, that may or may not want to kill me, because somebody who is associated to me may be involved in crime. Right? But Oral Tracey doesn't care about people like me, within that community. People like Damian Crawford, Oral Tracey, these people who are elites, but their brands, the way that they market themselves, is they are down with you. They are down with the ghetto people. They are down with the lower classes, but they don't care about the lower class people who are at the top of their class. They care about the criminal who gets unalived by the police. That's the ghetto people that they care about, because that's the ghetto people where you get woke points from. You don't get any woke points for caring about the ghetto people, the silent majority, the ones who are not popular. So that's why people like this can never really criticize something like dancehall or violent music, because their brands are attached to a certain image. All right, now, I'm gonna kind of allow him to speak a bit more, and then I'll talk about violent music and dancehall in general, and what it has to do with the culture.
Have been driven to what he became by music. Is downright imbecilic, and that's the point we make to the people. Them, even upon this channel, let me talk about it. I hope people are running on my argument, but me raise it again, because classically, people, Classically, me can tell you, the majority of the youth they were getting a violent criminality and gang business. And them kind of circumstances here, where you see, come together with this youth, 9 out of 10 of them, and them kind of circumstances here, present them youth here to the street and gangsterism take them over, or them choose gangsterism.
Wrong. A lot of people who are in gangs are not people who were abandoned by their parents. A lot of them grew up where they might not have had 2 parents in the household, but they did have a mom. A lot of times. They did have a parent within the household. They were not necessarily poverty stricken, not talking about, not trying to pretend as if their life was perfect. But this particular situation is not where gang members come from. A lot of people who end up in gangs are just regular people like myself. I grew up with these people. I saw the people who turned to gangs. I saw the kind of popularity that they gained once they started to speak to somebody who was a gang member. I saw how seductive that this kind of lifestyle is for regular people. Some people growing up in 2-parent households. Not saying these people's life were perfect, but I kind of got the impression that Oral Tracey may have been from the lower classes, and then he rose up to be an elite. Then he doesn't want to be seen as a sellout, so therefore that's the reason the way he speaks the way he speaks. But with that statement that he just made, he just made me realize that he's probably always been an elite. He doesn't know what really goes on in lower class communities. Anyway, let's talk about dancehall and culture, because now we know that culture is what really impacts violence within a society. Again, we are not saying that somebody listens to violent music and then goes out and want to commit violence. That's not how it works. How it works is the violent music, the dancehall, the hip-hop, it encourages, it highlights, it popularizes the most negative parts of the culture. It makes that part of the culture cool. And people like Oral Tracey will not have any problem talking about how Bob Marley and how positive music has a positive impact on society and culture. But they do have a problem speaking about how violent music and music that encourage bad behavior, they can't admit that it has a negative impact. So if it's good, it has an impact, but if it's bad, it has no impact. Anyway, bad ideas that have become more prevalent within the culture. A white man came into dancehall and sang a song about informers in the 90s. And since then, that idea that demonizing informers, not only should informers be unalived, the idea of being an informer is immoral. So I grew up never wanting to be an informer. I can tell you that. Not that I've ever I've become an informer, no, but I should be an informer if I see a crime. I've not seen a crime that I've witnessed that I should report, like a violent crime. But if I see one now, I should report it if I can report it in a way that it doesn't come back to me negatively. But it's ingrained within my psyche growing up that I should never be an informer. The white man came in, he sung that song in dancehall, and all of the popular dancehall artists, so many songs were sung about that in dancehall. The architects of their own destruction. So a criminal ends up never going to prison. I grew up in a situation where criminals were always the most popular people within the community because they never went to jail. And if they went to jail, nobody went to testify against them. So therefore, they were back out and they were more popular than ever when they bust the case. Right? That's one bad idea that has been popularized by this kind of music. In hip hop, snitches get stitches. So the black community in America has the same culture. Right? So that's one thing. So if you want the culture to change, start encouraging people to be informers so that criminals can go to prison, so that your children do not grow, when your children are growing up, they see the mechanic, they see the electrician as the most popular and successful person in the community, not the criminal, not the drug dealer, not the chopper. Right? And so that's just one bad idea. When we're talking about violent music, we're not talking about the simplicity strawman argument that they're trying to argue against. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how bad ideas ingrain themselves into the psyche. All right. And when violent music, being a part of gang member, being a part of a gang, those things, drug dealing, those things are you're told, money at all costs, no morals, no encouragement of one cocoa full basket. When those things are said to you over and over, of course it's going to impact the culture. Of course, there's going to be a causal link. So I'll finish by saying, yes, Oral Tracey, you are correct. This young man did not listen to some violent music and then decide to go out and commit violence. However, the culture made it very easy for him to turn to gang violence. The culture that dancehall helped to create gave him popularity when he joined the gang. Told him to join the gang in the first place, the culture. I'm not saying the dancehall did it by itself. The culture that the dancehall helped to create made that an easy way out. So yes, we cannot, dancehall is not blameless in the demise of this young man. So that's what I have to say on that topic.